Hey guys, Nick Nanton here, along with
Greg Roulette, what's happening?
not much, man. We are here for the very first show of Celebrity Branding U. We've been talking for a while about doing this, and we finally got it together. It seems like
Yeah,
the technology gods have been against us here for
a little
months in
bit.
getting this done.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Well, so the goal of the show really is just to kind of keep you guys informed in the latest and greatest cool stuff we're learning about celebrity branding, personal branding, how to become the absolute expert in your business, as well as marketing, because we do obviously a lot of that. That
Right.
really is what all this is about marketing yourself, growing your business, and doing it tactfully in a great way because you're trying to help people. That I think that's the overall goal, and the most important thing to us is we're not going to try to be long-winded on these. I don't really know how long they're going to be, but when we
Yeah.
run out of good stuff to say, we'll
We're
stop.
we're just done.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna turn it off.
that's all good. So for this first episode, let's talk about two things that I probably feel like I beat like a dead horse, but certainly if you're now being introduced to our world, I think it's
Hmm.
really important to talk about a few things. So I'm gonna go ahead and start and try not to get in a soapbox, and then obviously Greg, feel free to chime in.
Definitely.
So for those of you who don't know, I'm Nick Nanton. I am the CEO of the Celebrity Branding Agency. Greg is the CMO of the agency as well as the CEO of Celebrity Expert Marketing. So we keep him pretty busy around here,
A little bit.
and the CEO of the Product Pros.
Yep.
And we do a lot of stuff around here. So we like to have fun. You'll notice that. And we are trying out our new studio here. So hopefully all goes well. But one of the things I really like to start out with is that we really are in the worlds of media, marketing, PR, and branding. I would say
Hmm.
that that's kind of really where we fall in line. And the thing that drives me nuts is I think there's. I'm a lawyer, so this is kind of funny to say. I don't say that in public, so keep that between us, all right? I think there's more charlatans in the media, marketing, PR, and branding industries than just about anywhere else,
Yeah.
including the
Agreed.
legal field, which is tough to say.
Yeah.
But here's what I think people try to do too much of. They try to make it really confusing. What branding is, what media is, what marketing is, what PR is, and how it all works together. So one of our life missions is to try to debunk all that, so small businesses too can benefit from these things. Because I think a lot of larger businesses probably don't use them effectively, but it doesn't really matter in the budget that much.
Right. And that's what we see is what the large companies are doing. We don't really see what the small business is doing because they're not running commercials or buying ads. And so we get brainwashed into thinking that's how it has to be done.
I agree, and we work with companies that are huge, but we work with a lot of smaller businesses too.
Hmm.
And I think I would contend that most PR and marketing firms don't even approach a business until they hit about 10 million in revenue.
Right.
And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I certainly think a lot of that is because um, a business below that level of 10 million mark, let's say, their budget's just a lot more constrained, and
Yeah.
five, seven, $10,000 a month is a tough thing for them to afford. And when they watch the budget, they get nixed pretty quickly because it doesn't move the needle because they don't know everything they need to know.
Right.
So I think that's important. But here's what I like to just really break it down simply. One of the things I think that we do well at the agency is we're storytellers, and at the end of the day, I think that's what this is all about. And when it comes down to branding, I really try to simplify it by saying this: look, your brand is your story.
Hmm.
Period. That's all you really need to know about branding. Your brand is your story. That's like the overall macro. And everything you do is a part of your story. I mean, I'm gonna be on HuffPost Live later today talking about Martha Stewart and her Macy's lawsuit, and that's part of her story. We'll see how the story ends up, and
Right.
we'll see how it turns out. But it's all part of your story. But telling your story, it will allow you to do two things. How effectively you tell your story will allow you to do two things. It'll allow you to grow your bank account and help more people. So at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do. We try to help people tell their story through multiple different mediums. And again, the more effectively you tell your story, the more your bank account grows and the more people you can help. I think some people have a bit of a mental block thinking about growing their bank account. But don't forget, you can give lots of money away.
Yeah.
And I do think James Malinchak does say it best. Money just magnifies who you are. So if you're a jerk, you become a bigger jerk with more money. If you're a great person, you become a bigger great person. I don't know if that sounds right. You don't get fatter. Well, maybe you do, but
You might. Yeah.
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 But you're gonna become a better person. If you're a good person, you'll become a better person because it allows you to do more. And with money, the things we've been able to do through just the agency growing through
Right.
going down to Mexico and doing projects with
Dominican
orphanages
Republic and Haiti, and the list
all
goes
over.
on and on. But it's because of the opportunities we've been able to help our clients with that we allow ourselves to go out and help these other people.
Absolutely. So that's kind of what your brand is your story. How effectively you tell that really allows you to grow your bank account and help the most
So
people.
let's stop
That's
there really quick
okay.
for a second. So let's talk about some of the ways that you can actually tell your story because you don't, always want to go out there and say, I did this and I did that
Right.
and I did it because that's more bragging, boasting, the big
Right.
ego versus effectively communicating that story so people understand who you are and how you help people. So talk about some of the ways that you've been able to help people tell their story, and so we can relate that to everyone listening.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things I'll go through kind of the different things that we have done to tell our story. And it's funny with the agency, we kind of test stuff and then we roll it out. And if it
Yeah.
works well for us or a friend of ours that asks us, "Hey, would you do this crazy thing?" and it works, then we roll it out. But
Yeah.
we do everything from helping people author best-selling books to helping people co-author best-selling books. Where some of our books you only have to write one chapter in, and so we select some of the top experts from around the world on a particular subject. We've had everything from dentistry to IT to really general success books. And they're fun because they're kind of like ADD books. You don't read,
Yeah.
you don't have to read them cover to cover. They're about all different things. So we use books, which are great. We have done a lot of documentaries and movies, which are a really visual way to tell your story. We use a lot of audio and video in general, just through CDs, DVDs, podcasts like this.
Yep.
I love sales letters, postcards, magazines, newsletters. Probably iPhone apps, websites.
Yeah.
I mean, emails. There's so many ways to tell your story. There's so many mediums. I think that's what's important. Every new media that comes out, whether it's a type of social media, whatever else it is, I think it's really important to stop and say, we all see people doing really well with something, and our tendency is to go, "Wow, that's really cool," and move on.
Mhm.
But I think with watching people's success and also can be parlayed into watching new media forms come out. It's all about, hey, how can I use that? Like,
Right.
stop and ask that question. I think if we all stopped and asked that question a lot more, we'd all be a lot more successful.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things in our TV shows that we do when we help people get into like a 7 to 10 minute video about themselves, and it doesn't really matter what the actual questions are. It's the answers that we want to get out of them. And
Right.
you have a real simple formula for those questions. I mean, and you could phrase it 100 different ways, but what are those basic questions that you really want to answer, and not just in a video, but maybe in a sales letter, maybe in a marketing piece, in a video, and a podcast as well? What are those questions that you really need to answer in order to get your message and your story across?
Sure. Well, through doing lots of interviews for newspaper, television, I mean, interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people now too. There's really four things. If you can get these across, you win in any
Yeah.
interview, whether it's 3 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 hours, whether it's in a Skype interview or whether it's an international television broadcast at the Olympics.
Mhm.
And these are the four things you always want to get across: who you are, what you do, how you help people, and how people can reach you to learn more. I'll do it one more time. Who you are, what you do, how you help people, and how people can reach you to learn more. You're trying to create intrigue. People, it's funny. People often will ask me, "Hey Nick, can you get me on Good Morning America?" And I'll say, "Well, I probably could, but let me save you a lot of time, energy, effort, and money." Why? Because I often ask them, "When was the last time you watched Good Morning America?"
Yeah.
Crickets, usually.
Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, they have an audience, but it's usually not who any of us are going for at any particular time, right? And so I also then say, well, look, here's the deal. If you're on Good Morning America this morning, it was on this morning and it will never be seen again. Unlike the type of media we're creating right now, which is an episode that will live on our website, it will live on the podcast network, it'll live all sorts of places, and hopefully one day on international TV as well as in the box set of archives of the best of Nick and Greg, right? But the whole point is that when we watch national media is great for credibility and awareness, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I think also very importantly is that when you're on an interview like this, people don't watch TV or read newspapers to find people to hire. I mean, it can happen as kind of a fluke, but we do it for educational purposes, but really kind of entertainment, edutainment, if you will. But we're really usually not looking for calls to action. That's why the pattern interrupt of a TV commercial or an infomercial, whatever it is necessary to be like, hey, you need to call us now to get this free report or buy the juice
and
or
that
whatever
just
it
doesn't
is.
happen on Good Morning America or Live with Regis and
They
Kelly,
don't
whoever
want
it
it to
is.
happen.
They
They're
don't.
really trying to entertain. That's
Correct.
their only goal, right? And so if you can get across those four things and be intriguing, if people know how you help people and how they can reach you to learn more, that's awesome. Who you are, they've got to know because they won't listen to you until they know you, right?
Right, exactly. And something that I always remember, because it's something that happens for me, is I remember the story. I don't remember the numbers or the details, and especially in like a live presentation or in a sales pitch. I'm not going to remember the numbers of presentation, but I'm going to remember that, Nick's got kids and he just had a birthday party over the weekend, and that's something I can connect with him with on a human level, on an emotional level, and that's what I'm going to remember. And then if I'm like, oh yeah, Nick's the branding guy, also, it allows him to win my business over just stating numbers and facts and features and benefits and the things that really go in one ear ear and one out the other, because you hear so much of it every single day that you really got to create that human level. And that's the who you are, and the how you help people part of it. That is so important that people really miss out, because they just jump on the mic and they're like, hey, I got 3 used cars and I'm going to sell them to you today. And
Right.
they're $17.99. And it goes in one ear and out the other. But if you say, hey, we just had this amazing event and this is what happened and here's how we helped all these people, that creates that emotional connection. That's what stories really do. And that's what, part of what we're trying to get across today to you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Actually, as you say, that's funny. My son Brock, my oldest son, so I've got 3 kids. I have 2 sons and a daughter, and the daughter's the youngest, and she's going to have a hard time dating boys, I think. But Brock, my oldest, turned 8 last week, and so he wanted to go bowling. He's enamored by bowling for some reason. It's really funny. Like, he's like, how do I join the bowling league? And I have nothing against bowling, but I'm like, Brock, this probably might get old after a little while. So I was like, let me see what else I can come up with. So I came up with this idea. What about laser tag? Like,
Yeah.
I remember playing laser tag back when I was a kid, and it was really fun.
It was a good time.
I love paintball. I play maybe once a year, or whenever I get a chance. I actually chided 2 of my clients, Jay Kinder and Mike Reese, into paintball for their documentary so that we could play some paintball. But it's fun because you get this total rush, and it's like you hear the paintball splatting right next to your head, and it's crazy. And I knew the 8-year-olds wouldn't quite be ready for that, because we were going to have a sleepover, which isn't, they should call it maybe like a stayover or a scream over.
There's not much sleep
No
happening
sleeping
on
at
those.
all. And we didn't realize it was daylight savings time this weekend either. But anyway, it was fun. But so I came up with this idea. What about laser tag? So we looked it up, and they actually, here in Orlando, they have a laser tag place that's on a paintball field. And they have like 5 different fields. They're indoor, outdoor. And it was lots of fun. But I think the highlight was, Brock and his friends had a blast. And then, but my son Bowen, we took him too. He's 5, and he won every man for himself.
Oh,
There's
man.
40 adults and like kids, and he was the youngest. He was 5, and so the guy, I guess it's really, now they program the game from an iPad, so they can like choose teams. They can move you over. They can give you 100 lives or 3 rounds of ammo, whatever they want for different games. And so the guy's like, all right, well, the good news, we're about to play another game, and the bad news is it's every man for himself, and it starts now. And he hits the button, and everyone just scatters, right? And so I stayed in for a while. I was probably like one of the last 3 or 4 left, and I look around, like, there I see Bone. I see this little curly mop just running like from little like bunker to bunker, and all I see this girl. There was this team of biologists who happened to be playing with us too. They're in university or something.
Yeah.
And all I see is this girl, and I think she's having this quandary: do I take out the 5-year-old or not? And as she starts to hesitate, Bone just lights her up, and it's game over. So it's pretty funny.
Incredible.
He was pretty impressed. So anyway, we'll have lots of great stories as Colton grows up too, as well, right?
Exactly. But just to go back to the point that story, it's going to relate to someone. Someone's going to be watching this and have a birthday party that they need to plan, and that's what they're going to remember. They'll be like, "Oh, Nick told me that." But it's those kind of stories that are just really, really important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I also got chided a little bit, maybe scolded a little bit on Facebook by this lady in Australia who said children at such a young age should not be exposed to such things. And so I didn't take a chance to rant back at her, but I said, you know what? I appreciate your opinion, but I firmly disagree. I think certainly, gun control and gun safety are very serious issues. But there's nothing like education and a fun environment to start teaching a kid what's right and
I'd
what's
much
wrong.
rather have them running around than playing Call of Duty on the Xbox. Or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And,
So,
and learning the fact that, even what laser tag is, what this paintball gun is, as opposed to a real gun. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so you never know what you're gonna get when you hit social media. But
No.
there's a pretty funny picture of him. If you don't follow me, you can check out at Nick Nanton on Twitter. I put it up on there, as well as Facebook.com/Nick Nanton. So that was lots of fun. But and you know what, we'll save it because we don't have time this time. But for the next episode, I will tell you all my deepest, darkest secrets about storytelling and how it affects the brain, how it builds trust, and how you can make people actually. They have to do business with you because they feel like they helped you succeed, and they'll be part of your failure and your downfall if they don't work with you by telling stories. So we'll save that for next time.
Save that teaser.
We'll save that. There's the
Let's-
teaser.
So let's move in. So the first half of this was all about that you need to tell your stories. That's a fundamental part of what we teach here. The second part of that is what we call the business trifecta, because you need 3 different pieces in order to be effective and get that story across to people, and that's media, marketing, and PR. So why don't you talk about how you kind of stumbled across this theory, and then we'll dig into some examples as we go.
Sure. Well, I like to tell a story like this. When I was 16, I bought my first car. I actually bought it from my mom, and it was this Daihatsu Charade. It was
Sweet ride.
Yeah. It was a hatchback. It was sweet. Actually, it was funny. It was manual, but it had like it had like power windows and stuff. Like it was like this little ghetto car, but it had power windows, and it was all gray, and it had this decal on it. It was a paint splash all across the side, and it turned like 4 different colors. It was straight up like late '80s, early '90s. It was awesome, and so I bought it, and I think it was a 1988 Daihatsu Charade, I believe, and I turned 16 in '96, so it was a few years old,
Yeah,
right?
a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So I bought it, and it had 3 cylinders, which I didn't even know was possible for a car. But it was more like a golf cart. I think my golf cart now might go faster. We'll see. But it had 3 cylinders, and I used to have to turn the air conditioner off to get on the
Yeah.
interstate. And we live in Florida, and so it's not the dates don't love that much. You know, when I got a car, I mean, I want to take girls out. You know,
Yeah.
and so
See, we got to roll the windows down, babe.
yeah, exactly. But my hair, you know the story. But anyway, so I went to get an oil change one time or something like that, and the guy's like, "Hey, Nick, did you know that only 2 of your cylinders are working? You have a cylinder out." I'm like, "Had no idea." So I paid for it, whatever, he fixed it, and then I could get on the interstate with the air conditioner on, which was much better.
Yeah.
And so I kind of talk about media, marketing, and PR like that. We all need all 3 of these cylinders, but most of us don't know how they interact and don't even know really that the 3 are connected.
Yeah.
So media, I'll tell you kind of how they all relate. So media can be any form of media. We'll talk about direct media in a minute, but any sort of media, mostly that you create, I think, plays into this. Well, I guess also that you're on TV or whatever, on a regular news station or Good Morning America. It's much more useful if you can get a copy of it. But essentially, media is a storytelling format. It allows you to tell your story
Yep.
through whatever format.
So a lot of the media we were talking about earlier, podcasts, CDs, DVDs, books, special reports, really any piece of tangible media that you can have that has your story attached to it.
Right. And most people, I don't want people to get lost at hearing story right now because, I mean, this is a story we're telling. This is part of our story. Our life's a story. This is just a microcosm of it. But the more people can get to learn your story and see you interact and how you react to things, the more they're going to trust you. And I'll talk all about a really cool scientific reason for that next time too. But so media, yeah, is any form that allows you to continue to tell your story or the story you're currently telling. It could be about a product, it could be about a service, whatever it is, right? Marketing is how you drive revenue, right? That is absolutely how you drive revenue. Most people forget about that. Sometimes they think just a media and PR strategy is going to drive revenue. It might drive a little bit, but the only thing that really moves the needle is marketing.
Yeah.
And PR is there's kind of 2 types of PR. There's kind of like preemptive PR and like post-strike PR, we'll call it. And preemptive PR is like when you're trying to get the message out about something that just happened. You're trying to get covered in the newspaper. You're trying to get picked up online. We do a lot of online press releases, and I'll talk about that because I think they're really effective, particularly in the post-strike method, if you will. But press releases are a way to tell the world what you're doing. You're married, I'm married, we're both happily married, but how many times do you feel like your spouse has said, and you probably said to yourself, they must think I can read their mind, right? It's kind of funny, and we
it's
all
crazy.
do that.
Right.
But we also do that with our clients. We think because I've told the business trifecta or the secret formula for media success 1,000 times that everyone must have heard it.
Right.
The fact of the matter is they haven't. They might not have listened to the right thing. They might not have been paying attention. Even though I talk about it every day, they might only hear me speak once a month or once a year, whatever it is, right? So
Right.
PR is the way to get out of your business head, out of the nucleus of your business, what's going on and telling the world about it. So, the way they work really well together is creating a piece of media or getting media credentials. Creating PR that says, "Hey, I was just in this media format." So even though that episode of Good Morning America is gone forever, I was on Good Morning America. That's a press release you can put out, syndicated online, and it'll last forever, right? And then the marketing is what goes behind that and says, "Hey, I just talked about my product on Good Morning America. Here's the link to the press release so they can see it's legit. And then now listen to my story." So media, marketing, and PR used together is what really drives the needle or moves the needle and is the most effective, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to talk about an example of a client we were just working with, Grant and Andrew down in South Florida. They actually just got a write-up in the Sun Sentinel, which is the big local newspaper down there. And so they got the article in, and obviously that paper goes out on one day. It went out on a Thursday. Well, on Friday, there was a new newspaper. Right. So people didn't read the newspaper on Thursday. They didn't see the article, right? So that's what we're talking about. So the media only lived once, like the Good Morning America example we talked about earlier.
That's when you do the recycling bin shelf helpful. You're like running down the street trying to
Yeah,
find all your
exactly.
copies of your newspaper.
So on Thursday that ran, and then on Friday they had press releases going out that said, "Hey, yesterday we were seen in the Sun Sentinel. Here's a link to the online article and that whole nine." Well, now we're going and we're creating sales pieces that are going out that says, "Hey, check out all the excitement going on at the office. We were just featured in the Sun Sentinel, and because of that, we're running this special." Right. So now they're using that media in their marketing to drive clients back to their business. So they're using all three pieces because if you didn't read the newspaper on Thursday, well, maybe you saw the press release. If you didn't see the press release that let the whole world know, well, I can't believe you're missing out. Well, here's now the sales piece and the marketing that's behind it.
And that's what I love. And you know what? We're going to send a special prize to Grant Andrew for using the Business Trifecta. And if you send us in a copy of, an example of you using the Business Trifecta somehow effectively, or anything else we talk about in the show, we will send you an autographed book of Celebrity Branding You or one of our latest releases.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll get that out to you. So do that. I also want to pause for a moment and remind you this is Celebrity Branding You on the Celebrity Expert Network. So make sure you bookmark it, you subscribe, all those fun things, because we're going to bring you lots of great content. And then the second piece, I think, kind of to close out this part of the show, is the secret formula for media success. And this is really important too. These are all really simple concepts, but no one explained them to us, and I've lost a lot of money spending it the wrong way on media marketing PR. But there's two types of media. This is what the secret formula is. There's two types of media. There's mass media, television, radio, newspaper, magazine. Great for two things: building credibility and awareness. Again, we talked about earlier how the majority of people don't read an article or watch an interview and say, "Wow, that guy's so smart, I should hire him." Right? So, but it is good for being able to say, "Hey, I was in that paper or I was on that show," and check it out. Right? Builds huge credibility because you can be. It's like Dr. Scott Schumann in Grove City, Ohio.
Dental,
He's a dentist, and we've had him on NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox affiliates around the country. We've had him in Inc. Magazine, USA Today, Newsweek, Wall Street Journal. He's been to the Grammys with us, Kentucky Derby. He's been on like everything we've done. He has 8 or 10 best-selling books with Jack Canfield and Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy, and the list goes on. Well, he's in Grove City, Ohio. Has an amazing dental practice there. Inc. 505,000, 2 or 3 years in a row. And he's just growing. He's a great guy. But he's the only guy in that market who's had those media formats. So he's got huge credibility. When you walk in his office, he displays his expertise well. And maybe we'll do a video tour sometime of our office and kind of show you how we suggest you do it. But so mass media builds credibility and awareness. Direct media is really marketing material. And direct media is any type of media you create and send to an audience that actually gives a damn, right? And here's the deal: when you're out marketing, the masses are the masses, but we have all heard the term riches and niches. And we talk about going to niche markets. We're in multiple niche markets, but niches are so important because you can actually afford to penetrate a niche and be everywhere to that niche before you move on. What most people do is they spend all their money on mass marketing or brand marketing or mass advertising, and they run out of money like halfway or 3/4 of the way across the lake, never quite make the destination because they didn't have enough funds to reach everybody. But you do have enough funds. The more you pare down your niche, the more funds you have to reach them. So one of the things that is so important is getting people to opt in, raise their hand, whether you met them at a trade show or they logged in and opted in your website, or they opted in and then gave you their mailing address for something special. The whole deal here is that you want to create media in as many different formats because they're different storytelling formats, right? CDs, DVDs, we talked about sales letters, newsletters, magazines, movies, documentaries, interviews, whatever it is, right? Create that media, and you want to create that direct media. It's like direct marketing, and send it to the people who care. So the cool thing about direct media is that you only have to spend as much as you want to spend because you're spending it to send it to the audience who cares, and you can send whatever format. You can send as many pieces. You can send as many pieces in the sequence. We obviously need to talk about sequential marketing at some point here too. But the whole point being, direct media is awesome for driving revenue. The problem is that people realize it's a marketing message, right? So the real secret formula for media success is taking mass media credibility as seen on NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Inc. Magazine, all that stuff, and inserting it in your direct media. So the next marketing piece you send out will be able to say as seen on or as seen in, or a sales letter. If Greg and I were to give you an obnoxious example, we wouldn't really do this, but if we sent out a sales letter and we wanted to really get attention, we might say, "Hey, I'm Nick Nanton and Greg Roulette, and you might have recently seen us on NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Newsweek, Inc. Magazine, Fast Company, or perhaps you've read one of our 25 best-selling books." Well, people That sounds arrogant, so I wouldn't do it that way. But people would stop and say, "Wow, how come I never heard of these guys?" Like
Right.
you're like Dr. Oz at that point. You've got
Yeah.
the media resume like anybody else, right?
Right.
And that's what we do for our clients. But if you don't utilize that mass media credibility in that
Right.
direct media, you're never going to get the
Yeah, you
results you
use
want.
that to get their attention. Again, it's a
Right.
pattern interrupt to say, oh, how come I've never heard of Nick Nan or
Right.
never heard of Greg Roulette? I need to see what they have going on, and it's really, really powerful. And it's as simple as using things like that on your website, as seen on, and having your media credentials there. We just did a sales letter for another group of financial advisors, and on the bottom, on the footer of every single one of the sales pages has, as seen on. So every page when they're flipping, it's a reminder of, man, these guys are important. I really need to pay attention to them, and it keeps us engaged in the message because they must have something to say.
They absolutely do, and it absolutely works. I mean, it's funny. My wife called me the other day, and she said, "Hey, Nick, the funny thing is that she needed a new doctor."
Mhm.
And she said, "Hey, Nick, I found a doctor, and this doctor is awesome. I saw on their website they've been on NBC, they've been CBS." I'm like, I just started laughing. I'm like, it works,
It works.
it works every time. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things we help our clients with. Again, this is episode 1 of many of Celebrity Branding You
Yep.
on the Celebrity Expert Network, and you just learned the business trifecta and the secret formulas for media success. We've got a lot more to share. Greg, any closing comments?
No, that's it. Tune in next week. We're going to talk about stories again and how you can tell them. And it's been fun.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we'll talk about story selling, Hollywood secrets revealed, how to sell without selling by telling your brand story, which is the subject of a new book we have coming out. So we'll tell you all about the fun ninja secrets next week. Actually, I'll leave you with one more thing. People always talk about ninja secrets, and I thought this was really smart. A guy named Jim Quick, he's a great marketer. Jim Quick talks about being a samurai, not a ninja. A ninja's a sneaky guy who's stealthy. A samurai is a guy who fights with honor and pride. And I thought that was pretty cool. They both do the same thing. They fight, but one fights with honor and pride. So be a samurai, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.